So you want to know how to make ambient chords and ambient melodies like 80 turn up, Adrian, and ambient beats, of course? Well, look no further, because this is the tutorial for you. See, I've found this piano right here, just a simple piano from Purity, and let me show you exactly which process that I work on. So firstly, to define what is a chord progression, a chord, and stuff like that for the new producers out there. Well, the best way I would define a chord is by having 3 notes or more, or like 2 notes or like whatever, where when you play them, they have like a collective sound. That's a chord, rather than a note is just a note like here, right? So when you then talk about like chord progressions, you wanna, that's basically when you have more than one chord playing together, so something like this. That could be a chord progression. See, there are different types of chords you can make. FL Studio has this really nice feature where if you look up here where it says stamp, then and press it, then you have all these different types, both of scales but also for the chords. So firstly, you have the major chord. The major chord sounds like this. Very happy, very lovely going. You also have something called an augmented chord. That's something like this. Right here. That sounds a bit more like a little mix of being happy but also kind of like, yeah, strange in it. You also have diminished chords right here. That's what 80 Turn Up is very well known for making towards the end of his chord progressions. And then lastly, you have the minor chord. The minor chord looks like this. That's the reverse of the major chord, and it sounds a bit sad. See, let's focus a bit on the minor chord. For when you want to make actual ambient chord progressions and chords and so on, you want to work in the minor chord. See, you have something called a minor chord, the minor 7th and the minor 9th. Let me just quickly draw these up for you guys. So basically, the difference between these two is how many notes there are, as you can see here obviously, is how full they are. So when you listen to them individually, you got this one. You can hear it's just like how, yeah, you can say how many notes there are. Many, and I would say most of the beats that you hear. I mentioned this in my earlier tutorial, how to make ambient beats. Remember to check that one out, link in the description below. Anyways, most beats use the ambient 9th chord, which sounds like this. So if you want to focus on making chords for this genre, you want to focus on the minor chords. See, I don't really know that much about music theory, but it's like they said in Oppenheimer, it's not about understanding the actual music, but about hearing the music. So anyways, when you have the chord progressions here, a lot, and if not all of the chords that you hear, what they do is they take the minor 9th chord that you saw right here, then they duplicate it again, and what they do is they move 5 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it goes from C to G, which sounds like this. You know, very vibey already. You could almost make a beat from this. So yeah, that's basically how many of the chord progressions are, is where you work in the minor scale. See, a very nice trick here, if you want to duplicate, I know you guys just saw me duplicate the pattern really quickly, is if you mark everything by doing Control A and then do Control B, then you can actually copy it over. If you do it again, Control B, and then Control Z obviously for deleting. See, I mentioned earlier that 80 Turn Up was known for making diminished chords towards the end. So you can actually move a bit away from the minor chord if it makes sense in the context. So let's listen to this entire progression that I've made just now, right here. Very vibey. See, here you know how I've used minor 9th chords. This right here is just a completely normal diminished. If you want a chord to have like a fuller sound, this is just a trick I've learned myself. Then you can take one of these notes, so either the D, the F, or the G sharp. I personally love the D, pause, but low-key on pause if it works. Anyways, if you placed it one octave up, so you have the D right here and then paste it one octave up, it sounds like this. Just a bit a fuller sound. Then you can also go to, for instance, the G sharp if it works out, or maybe down to the F here. And everything sounds good. So it's just about going with these right here. So this is basically how to make chords and chord progressions. It's just about sticking with the minor chords in the sense of the ambient, and then just following. So I did this 1-5 progression. That's what it's called, is when you have 1 here and then you move down 5. You could even go even more down, so it's... So you see right here how these two notes are identical to these two notes right here, the D sharp. These are called transitioning notes. So when you listen to the entire chord progression now rather than before, then you can hear that you have a very nice smooth transition. So already right here we have a very, very nice chord progression, which are made by a bunch of chords. So that's the first part of this tutorial, is just understanding what is a chord progression, and how to get them together. Now on to the second part of the tutorial, is the scales. See, for many producers out there, we talk about keys. See, what is meant by a key is, let's say right here FL Studio has this very nice knob here, this music note. If you right click on it and then say C, and we know we're working in the minor chord as of right now, and say minor natural Aeolian, and then you press it, then every time you move like a note up, it's gonna skip the notes that are not in the key. See, the way I like to explain this is that you're just picking like all the notes that you press together, they should work well together. So let's say for instance here I want to go here and then down here, maybe to here, something like this. It just works well because you are in the actual scale, you know? So that's a very nice trick for, like, especially for melodies. If you want to make like a melody, then you just have the right notes. You know, something like that. You just have the exact notes. So when you are working with making chord progressions like I showed you before, you can just simply go into the minor ninth and then you don't have to go with the scale. But what I like to do at the moment is I like to just pick a root note D and then the minor natural Aeolian, and then you can also see that the root note here changes. It just visualizes it, and then I just try and stay in the scale. And then you see there, I don't know any music theory in the sense, but like I told you guys before with like the move 5 down trick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, having it in the scale, it just works. And you can just make so many chords, and it's just so interesting, and you can add even more notes to give it a fuller sound. So that's basically how you can like make chords and a chord progression in the sense of that. So I've been using this piano sound right here, but when you're focusing on making like ambient chords and ambient stuff like that, sound selection is key. So before we move on to the next part of this tutorial, like I mentioned in my earlier tutorial, you want to make the chord progression first. The pad is the most important. See, I recommend here, if you want to have a good pad and you want to start out, get the plugin called Purity. Link is in the description below. And once you get the plugin Purity, you want to buy something called a Purity Bank. In this Purity Bank is called Atmosphere and Extreme Synth. Again, I'll leave a description in the down below. This has saved me so much because this, look at how many sounds there are, and you can see that it's actually you know, it's linked. You can see like right here it says PD light pad, you know this is a pad, ARP, you know this is an ARP, and so on and so forth. So as of right now, let me just choose the Just a simple pad. Let's just choose the blast pad for now. And now let's listen to the chord progression we made earlier. Already sounding super heavenly. You know? Like I'm about to fall asleep right now, if you know what I mean. And then if you feel like a chord progression, like the chord progression itself sounds nice, but it's not the exact note you want, then what you can do is you can hold shift and then the arrow keys up to move everything up or down until you find what you want. I like this a lot. Ooh, very warm. Very nice. So right here you see it's a very simple chord progression that we've done, but it still just hits very nicely because it's just you're just following the scale, you have the right sound selection, you have everything. So this concludes the first part of this tutorial on how to make chords and chord progressions when you want to make it in the ambient beat sense. Now on to the second part of the tutorial, and that is the melodies. See, when I want to make my melodies, what I do, let me just get a random bell. I love the Wave Bell 2 in the Atmosphere 3D. I always use this one. So what I've done right now, I'm in the same pattern and I've made a duplicate right here. You see all these notes right here, the gray notes. Most, if not all the times when you want to make your melodies, you want to have them in these gray notes right here. So that's like that's like a rule of thumb, because that sounds nice. So like, let's say that we want to make a very simple melody that it just goes free down like this. That's actually kind of vibey, I'm not gonna lie. And then the trick I showed you guys before, then you can link it to 5 here, Control B, then you paste it over. And then you see right here how we kind of change like the chord up here. You could maybe in the second half so right here I'm just following the gray notes. See right here I'm less is more in the sense. And when you want to make like your melodies, you want it to like complement the pad really nicely, and you want to make it super like ambient. So right here, already falling asleep, you know? Super nice. So that's like a bell melody. See, a viewer asked me, how many melodies do you want to add until you actually have like a full beat? And see, what I always like to say is that you kind of want to think like in your head. There's like a rule of thumb where you have your main pad, you have an accent pad, and you have like 1 to 2 melodies. If you hear like a melody in your head, then you can definitely add a new one, and you want to add them like with the sections. See, now I want to show you guys another trick. When you have 2 melodies in the same pattern and you want to split them up, you can simply go here, right click, and then say split by channel. This way you have them in 2 different channels. So when you play them, you have them in 2. See, now if I wanted to make a third melody, what I would do is I would change back to pattern 1. I would go to pad, and then I would just add another sound, you could say. So here, for instance, I love adding like leads. That sounds actually pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. And see, what I usually do is if you enable this right here where it says typing keyboard to piano, I just want to like get ideas. Something like that. So what I usually do is I hit record and I go. And it's fine if you like mess up. It's completely fine if you mess up. So right here you see I'm not like perfect, so it's not going to be exactly, but if you mark everything and then press Control Q, that's called quantize, sorry, then it should be timed better. So right here, you heard for instance in this section, This note right here sounds off. And do you guys want to know why? It's because it's probably not in the scale. See, now I've enabled this again, and I'm just double checking to see what's actually. So here you can see that B note wasn't. So like here, for instance, something like that. And then of course you also got to think logically. I just changed away from the B, but it still sounded kind of nice. And when you also look at the gray note right here that I told you guys about earlier, if we move all of this down, yes, this isn't in the actual like chord progression, but when you enable the scale thing here, you know it's in the scale itself. So it should work. So here, it's just all about like listening to with the ear, getting the melody, getting the timing right. So here I kind of want to go up. Something like that. Get everything like with the vibes. Sorry if I'm a bit quiet right now. It's just about like focusing about what you're making. And then you want to like get the timing right. And sometimes if you can't really get the timing right, enable the tempo. And then you can get it. And then it also really works to like hum it. There you go. And then here I'm just following the gray notes to add another. There you go. That's very nice. Then you can, what other things you can do is, if you feel like this is like overlapping here, so it's playing two sounds at once and you don't want that, do Control A and then Control L. This makes sure that it cuts it here. When you have a lead, you kind of, so instead of it clicks from one to the other, so it sounds robotic, you can mark everything and just move it slightly like this. So it like fades in. So now let's move this back up. Very nice. And it's just about revisiting it once you have it. So now we have two melodies in this track. We have one pad. So I would say for me, normally there's one thing that's missing. And that is when you think about like the composition of a beat, you want to have two pads that complement each other. So a very nice trick you can do here when you want to like make two pads is that you could add like a fantasy pad, for instance. This is a very nice pad. You copy over your old one, paste in the new one, and then move it up 2 octaves by pressing Control and then up key. Turn the volume down a lot. So it's just a background thing. Very nice. Very vibey. And then that's pretty much it. Then you have both two pad progressions, you have two chord progressions. Once again here, I'm gonna press split by channel. So if you were to like make, you know, a song, you could start out with this. Just have it vibing out. And maybe you could also have your drums. Have a melody, a bell melody coming in. And if you don't want to change up too quickly, then you can even add the high pad to create even more. And it's just so beautiful. And then like after you have all this, it's like a mini drop here. Then maybe in the next section, you can add the lead. This is not the lead. Wait, let's run it back. Hold on. So you got here. And it's just about revisiting, like I said. Because I can hear this isn't timed, but that's not really the point of this tutorial. I will run back. It's just about making sure that everything sounds nice. I think. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Just something smooth. So that's basically everything to know about making chords, about making melodies. If you guys have any questions at all, leave them down in the description below. And as always, I hope that you guys have a wonderful day.